So this is the last lesson in the series of lessons for Unit 3. It's answering questions 11 to 16. As you can see, it's the last in the series of the previous lessons that you have already completed. Today we'll be looking at individual rights under the Equality Act 2010, the responsibilities for equality and diversity for employers and employees, the difference between positive action and positive discrimination, the importance of following procedures on equality and diversity, and then finally organisations that provide support and information on individuals' rights and the services that these organisations offer. So, protecting the rights of the individual in the workplace, we need to understand the rights of employees and discuss the difference between positive action and positive discrimination. So, under the Equality Act of 2010, it brought all the different laws together and it covers everyone in Britain and protects people from discrimination, harassment and victimisation. So everybody who is included in the protected characteristics comes under that Equality Act. And you already, from having done previous lessons, know what those 9 protected characteristics are. So they cover age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex and sexual orientation. So any of those groups, if they are discriminated against, receive harassment or victimisation, then the person who does that could be charged under the Equality Act of 2010. So this particular slide now looks at the ways in which an individual is protected from discrimination, and that is going to allow you to answer question 11, which is to describe the rights individuals have under the Equality Act 2010. So you're protected when you're in the workplace, when you use public services like healthcare or education, when you use businesses and other organisations that provide services and goods, when you transport, when you join a club or association, when you've contact with public bodies like your local council or government departments. So, and it's your right to be treated equally, to be treated without discrimination, without harassment. So you need to summarise those points into a paragraph to answer question 11. You could pause the video now and then you will have the information on the screen for you to be able to fill in box 11. Okay, so moving on to question 12, where you have to describe the responsibilities for equality and diversity in the workplace of these 2 groups. First of all, for employers and then for employees. So if you are somebody who is a boss, owns a company, is employing people, these are your responsibilities as far as equality and diversity are concerned. Employers have a duty to make sure that employees and potential employees are not discriminated against because of any of the protected characteristics. They should have an equal opportunities policy to promote equality and diversity in the workplace. So that should be already set up. So if anything does happen, they're able to follow that policy. Managers and supervisors should make sure everyone follows the policy. So it's the responsibility of the people in charge to make sure that those rules and regulations are followed. They should make sure that all colleagues are treated with respect and dignity. So it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, whether you're older, whether you're younger, what your gender is, what your sexuality is, what your race is. Everyone should be treated with respect and dignity. They should remind and reinforce the equal opportunities policy to employers. So that's everyone who works in the company on a regular basis. So maybe mentioning it in staff meetings, maybe sending out emails to remind people. They could do things like that. Okay, so summarise that information into the box that says employers under question 12. Again, with question 12, you have to describe what employees' responsibilities are. So that is the people who work for the company. They're not in charge, but they're working for the company. What do they have to do to make sure that equality and diversity takes place? They have a duty not to discriminate against any of their colleagues or co-workers because any of the protected characteristics. So they can't discriminate against somebody if they're a man and the other person is a woman. They can't discriminate against people because of their race or their religion or their sexuality. If they do, they could face sanctions and may be ordered by an employment tribunal. So that's a group set up to help protect people in the workplace. They may have to personally pay compensation to the person that they have discriminated against or victimised. All employees have to follow the policy and make sure that all colleagues are treated with respect and dignity. They've not got to label people, but see them as individuals rather than as a member of an ethnic group or a gender. So not lump everybody together and treat them in a particular way because they think they're that type of person. To be sensitive to criticism and not overstep boundaries. So when people tell you that your behaviour is insulting or offensive, that you do something about it. You don't get upset and cause a big fuss. You just think about what you've done, understand and accept what people are saying to you, and try not to do it again. No, don't repeat your mistakes. So again, take that information on this slide and put it into the box that says employees' responsibilities under question 12. So now we're going to go on and address question 13 to try and explain what the difference between positive action and positive discrimination is. So, positive action is legally allowed. It's allowed by law. So it's an action that an employer can take to encourage people from groups with different needs or who've not been employed in the past because of their race or their gender to apply for the job. You will still give the job to the best candidate, but you are just helping the previously sort of discriminated against minority group to do the best that they can in the job interview. So for example, you'd target advertising. So you can use specific but not exclusive media to advertise jobs. So you can do a recruiting drive for a particular group of people. Using positive action statements in recruitment adverts, for example, stating that the employer welcomes applications from a particular group. For example, men at a nursery where the workforce is and has been 80% female. So you would say in your adverts, we would welcome any application from men. You would be working in a sort of welcoming environment. You would make it a positive advert trying to encourage them to join because there aren't many men working there already. It doesn't mean if they were to apply for the job and you had a woman candidate and you had a male candidate that you would then automatically give it to the man. That's not positive action. You've just encouraged a man to apply. You're not just going to give him the job because he's a man. You're going to still give the job to the best candidate. And if it happens to be the woman, she will get the job. If it happens to be the man, he will get the job. So these are examples of positive action. So you might offer pre-application training because those people haven't been in that environment before or haven't, got many people who can train them. You would send them off on a course. So you might teach them how to develop their CV. So that's the sheet that goes in front of an employer, and they look at what your job experience is, and there's a certain skill of setting that out to encourage somebody to give you an interview. Offering mentoring schemes. So they might come in and look at the job, look at the role, and spend time going around with the person who's already doing the job. Participation in careers fairs, holding open days. So they're encouraging people to become involved. So, positive discrimination is against the law. It's not allowed. For example, an employer recruiting a person because he or she has a particular protected characteristic, their race or their gender, rather than because he or she is the best candidate, would be committing discrimination under the Equality Act of 2010. So it's still discrimination because you might be discriminating for a good reason and giving somebody who hasn't had an opportunity previously the job just because they're black or they're a woman or they're disabled or they are gay, whatever the reason may be. You cannot just give someone a job because of that. You have to give it to the best candidate, because otherwise that is discrimination still. It's also unlawful to set quotas to recruit or promote a specific number or proportion of people with a particular protected characteristic. So if you were to say, well, there's only one black policeman or Asian policeman in the station, we are going to recruit now and make sure that we get another 6 or another 7 to balance things out. You can't do that. That's not allowed against the law, because that is discriminating against other candidates who may be more qualified. So I've put an example in there. If there was a shortage of black and minority ethnic managers in a company, and after interviewing, a BAME candidate is chosen for the job even though they're less qualified than the other candidates, that would be positive discrimination, and that would be against the law. So I've tried to include and put them side by side so it's easier for you to explain what the differences are. So positive action is allowed by law. Positive discrimination is not. Positive action encourages people with particular characteristics to apply for a job they wouldn't normally be considered for. Doesn't mean they're going to get it. Because if you were to give someone a job because of their race, gender or disability and not their qualifications for the job, that is positive discrimination, and that is illegal. It gives people with particular characteristics support, so that's positive action, like pre-job training, how to fill in a CV, how to help them develop their skills and have the best chance to get the job. Positive discrimination gives someone an unfair advantage over others just because of a particular characteristic. Even if it's for a positive reason, others are still being discriminated against. So use the previous 2 slides and use this comparison to be able to explain and describe the difference between positive action and positive discrimination. So that's question 13. So again, if you want to pause now so you're able to go back, I would do that. Okay, questions 14, 15 and 16. We're going to explain the importance of making sure equality and diversity procedures are followed. And we have done similar questions to this before, so it should be fairly straightforward. Then you've got to describe the types of organisations that provide support and information about the rights of individuals in relation to equality and diversity. Then you've got to describe the services that they can offer. Right, this covers question 14. Why is it important to follow these procedures? It's important because you have to ensure, we've already established that, we've already answered questions on that, that you have to ensure that everyone has access to the same opportunities and the same fair treatment. Everyone deserves to work in an environment that's free from discrimination, harassment, victimisation and bullying. Nobody should have to put up with that in the workplace or anywhere for that matter. If you actively promote equality and diversity and have a policy to match, then your business will thrive. We did a question on this previously. And people of all backgrounds can come together and achieve success. So it is, or does, make sense for a company to do that. It's for their benefit. To have a hard-working and happy workforce due to shared values amongst workers who work in an environment of fairness, dignity, tolerance and respect. Again, it's important to have that for the benefit of the business that you're working in or the organisation. To avoid sanctions given out to those who fail to follow correct procedures, because if you don't do it, you will get picked up, you will be sanctioned, and that could be the company as a whole. And again, that's going to have a negative effect on your business. Okay, so that's what you need to answer question 14. So you just need to put that into a paragraph in your own words. Again, if you need to pause now, I would do it. Okay, looking at question 15. So I have given you lots of examples of different types of organisations that work to provide support and information on the rights of the individual in relation to equality and diversity. So there are now about 3 slides which list a whole range of different groups. So in your box that's provided to answer, obviously you're not going to be able to fit all of these in, but take out a selection. So maybe one that is a general equality and diversity group, one that addresses gender, one that addresses race, one that addresses sexuality, one that addresses age. So just an overview of the different types of organisations. So on this page you've got Employers Network for Equality and Inclusion, and they're the UK's leading employer network promoting equality and inclusion in the workplace. You also have the Equality and Human Rights Commission. Parliament gave them the Commission the power, or they asked them to specifically challenge discrimination and to protect and promote human rights. The Women's Engineering Society is a charity and a professional network of women engineers, scientists and technologists offering inspiration, support and professional development. So it's there to support women who are wanting to break through and break into the traditionally male sort of arena of science and engineering and technology, and things are already changing massively, and that group is helping to do that and make further changes. Okay, Beacon, BECON, is a black and minority ethnic race equality organisation. So they provide services to black and minority ethnic groups and disadvantaged communities, and addressing discrimination, exclusion, inequalities and racism. Okay, Black Training and Enterprise Group, they contribute to the improvement of BAME communities by helping local groups so that they can play an active role in improving opportunities for black and minority ethnic individuals. Business Disability Forum, so it's a not-for-profit, so they don't do it for profit, it's a totally voluntary, based on charity member organisation that makes it easier and more rewarding to do business with and employ disabled people. So they're trying to improve the employment prospects of disabled people. Scope exists to make this country a place where disabled people have the same opportunities as everyone else. The Beaumont Society, a national self-help body run by and for the transgender community. Since 1966, they've been at the forefront of supporting the transgender community together with their partners and families, as well as advising and training on transgender issues. So they are making people more aware, they are getting the message out, and they are trying to educate people about those who are transgender. Stonewall is a group that supports lesbian, gay, bi and trans people here and abroad. They want to give them support. They partner with organisations that help create real change for the better, and they support those who perhaps haven't told their families or told their friends that they are gay. The Centre for Policy on Ageing started in 1947 by the Nuffield Foundation. They're an independent charity. They promote the interests of older people through research, policy analysis, so they look at policies dealing with old people and whether they discriminate or not, and giving out information. The Age and Employment Network works to promote work opportunities that serve the needs of people in mid and later life, employers and the economy. Okay, so what services do these groups provide? So I've just done general bits of information, and again, there's another 3 slides, I think. You don't have to write everything, but you can put some of these ideas to make up your paragraph to answer question 16. So they try and influence governments, business and trade unions, and they campaign for real practical change. So they try and get things changed if there are policies in place or things that can be discriminatory towards any of those protected characteristic groups. They bring together people from a range of disciplines areas, sharing their knowledge and expertise. They protect people against discriminatory treatment and hold organisations such as businesses and government to account for what they do. So they could take a business or an organisation to court if they have been treating people in a discriminatory way. Support equality and diversity for staff and students in higher education. They might build inclusive workplaces, offer help, training and leadership, and help companies make inclusion an everyday reality in all places of work. They might campaign for gender equality and women's rights, working towards a society in which individuals can fulfil their potential regardless of what their gender is. Making sure women gain access to their human rights and making equality between women and men a reality. Campaigning to encourage women to participate and achieve as engineers, scientists and leaders. Lobbying the government on women's behalf on a range of women's issues. Help and encourage people in business, industry and education to increase the participation, contribution and success of women in science, technology, engineering and maths. So they're trying to create more possibilities, more opportunities for women in those traditionally male jobs and departments. Strengthen the voice of BAME communities through increased involvement in politics and participation in society, providing advice, training, research and producing publications on building design and management to meet the needs of disabled and older people, helping those with learning disabilities so they can work alongside non-learning disabled colleagues with equal job responsibilities and on equal pay, providing advice and support to empower anyone experiencing a mental health problem so they're not discriminated against, campaigning to improve services, raise awareness so people are a little bit more understanding of what mental health issues and how they can impact someone in work. Valuing and supporting people with a learning disability and their families and carers, working towards a world where people with a learning disability are valued equally, listened to and included. Providing support, information and advice to more than 250,000 disabled people and their families, raising awareness of the issues that matter. Providing support, advice, information for anyone who knows or is related to a transsexual person in the UK. Offer support to local parent groups and contacts, help parents and families understand, accept and support their lesbian, gay and bisexual members with love and pride. So again, use this information and put it down in your paragraph. So just mention, obviously I've included a lot of different answers. You don't have to include all of it, just summarise a couple of the points. Last of all, empowering and giving a voice to trans and gender non-conforming individuals, including those who are non-binary and non-gender, as well as their families. Providing a listening ear, caring support and an information centre for anyone with any questions or problems concerning their gender identity or whose loved one is struggling with gender identity issues. Raise awareness of issues around all aspects of ageing and to support good practice. Show and advertise what older people themselves want and need. So, as I've said before, just summarise some of the points into the box for question 16. And that is the last question in Unit 3. So just check that you have covered everything you need to cover.